This week's Inside EVs podcast is brought to you by Electrify America, and we're so happy to be partnering with Electrify America until the end of the year. With Electrify America, you can drive your EV from coast to coast with more than 650 charging stations nationwide and new locations opening every week. Electrify America is bringing EV drivers the freedom they need. Whether you want to plan a weekend getaway, maybe you're off to see some friends or relatives, maybe it's a coast-to-coast road trip. You can ask our Kyle about how that's done using Electrify America charging stations. Well, you can rely on Electrify America's ultra-fast chargers to get you back on the road faster. So, where will you go charging on Electrify America? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear what your plans are for this weekend, and tell us where you'll go next. And you can learn more at electrifyamerica.com.
Hello, and welcome to the Inside EVs podcast for September the 17th, 2021. This is episode number 76. Today, we'll be talking about electrification at Ford with Darren Palmer, General Manager, Battery Electric Vehicles. Whether the Yoke is a joke, we drive the new Tesla Model S long range, and we also take the Volkswagen ID.4 all-wheel drive for a spin, and much, much more. I'm Domenick, Inside EV's forum moderator and Inside EV's editor. Joining us today is the perspicacious Tom Moloughney, Inside EV's editor and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. We also have the magnetic and well-manicured Mr. Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast, which, of course, is available on all the best podcast platforms. And, of course, Kyle Connor joins us from Out of Spec Studios. He also puts together videos for the Inside EV's YouTube channel that will make you laugh, cry, and that are better than Cats, the musical, not the animal. We're also joined today, at least for a while, by Darren Palmer. He is the General Manager Battery Electric Vehicles at Ford, and has been at the company in high-level roles for about 31 years, I understand. Before we get going, though, I'd just like to ask that you please subscribe to the show. And if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up button. And, of course, you can ring the bell icon on Twitch or YouTube and be informed of any new videos that pop up on our channel throughout the week. All right, so with that out of the way, welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
So, all right. So this week, we're going to start with our special guest before we get into the cars that we've driven this week in the news. So, Darren, how about you tell us, like, briefly, just what is your exact role at Ford, and maybe a quick overview of the company's electrification program, and then we'll get into some questions we have from our audience.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me here. I'm a big fan of the show. I listen to it every week, and I'm really into learning about what customers think of our vehicles and how we can improve them, as it's such a time of change in the industry. So that's why I'm here. You can ask me anything and we'll talk about it. So my role is General Manager of Electric Cars, which means anything to do with developing the cars and taking them to market for our customers. That's me. And the company wanted to focus on that, to have a focal point. Previously, I was one of the founding members of Team Edison, which was the startup group that were made to develop where to play and how to win for electric cars for Ford about 4 years ago. And we had a budget at that time of $11 billion to work out what to do and how to delight customers. And now you're just starting to see those first vehicles come through. The first one is the Mustang Mach-E, and then the Transit E, then, of course, the F-150 Lightning. And then we have more SUVs coming very soon after that. Our portfolio is now $30 billion because we have built confidence that the consumers are now ready for the products and the products are ready for the consumers. So we're all in on electric, and we have more news to share every week, actually, for the next 3 or 4 weeks. But you'll see huge investment and huge growth in our products. But we're at a very early stage, and we're at the stage where we're listening to our customers. These vehicles are made to be updated, and we see them as their Gen 1 now. We just put them out there, and we're getting ready for all the updates we're going to make to them.
Right on. So just to start, so yesterday we learned that Ford had received over 150,000 reservations for the F-150 Lightning. And I have a feeling the excitement around this vehicle is only going to grow once the media gets to drive it, and then owners start taking delivery and sharing their experiences. However, next year the plan is to only build 15,000 or 18,000, somewhere in there. What's the biggest obstacle to higher production And is there more the company can do to increase that number?
Yeah, so I could almost change my job title to volume increase guy, because I seem to have done nothing except increase volume since we started. So the numbers you quoted there, we haven't actually given out numbers, and they're not actually accurate. So we don't share them because it's a competitive issue. So we don't share them. What I will say is I have put massive investment in to massively increase volume. So we built an all new plant for this vehicle in Dearborn here in Michigan, and we are going to max that building out. So once we get started, we've actually taken the volume up hugely, significant, at least double, if not more. So we'll get launching next year, and then in 23 we're really going to go for it. And we have now put in place what we need to completely max out that entire building. So I think we're on record saying we're now up in the 90,000 volume for that vehicle, just as we get started in 23. And we're continuing to try and get more and more. The response has been even greater than we could have imagined. And it seems to be the Mega Power Frunk has made it a different category of vehicle, and people are crying out for a large family vehicle. And now with that Frunk, they can see that use case. And then the bi-directional power seems to really have tapped into something in the US that is useful and different. And there are stories coming out every week, like the wedding story a couple of weeks ago. So those are the two things. And then we know, and only a few people know, Tom's one of them, what it actually feels like to be in it. And we believe, because it's America's best-selling vehicle, it will demand attention. And if the customer is slightly interested because of those first two items, I've been saying 1 minute in the driver's seat and they will be hooked for life, because one gear, 775 foot-pound of torque feels like nothing you ever felt before, compared to trucks today with a lot less power and 10 gears. So this thing will pull 10,000 pounds up a 25% grade in silence with zero drama. And you could do that with a gas vehicle, but it will make quite a meal of it.
Right. That's some great numbers, like a great image pulling up that kind of load up a steep hill. Like to just talk about the numbers is one thing, but if you actually see it in action or from the inside of the truck, it's just kind of amazing. I don't know. So Tom, did you have a question that you wanted to ask?
Yeah. So I'm glad that Darren touched on that. I remember when we were in the truck going around the Ford Rouge Test Center track, which Darren, I think you might have exceeded the track speed limit and told me to keep that between us. So I'll keep it between us and our followers here. But it was a great thrilling ride, and that's leading into what we said. I remember, Darren, what you said to me was that the customers might be interested in the truck because of the cool features like the Mega Power Frunk and the intelligent backup power and 14 outlets and all these cool features. But you said, but this is why they're going to buy it. And then you stepped on it and, really got in the curves and everything. I mean, and that really stuck with me, that I think you get it, that, electrification isn't about incentives and government forcing people to buy electric cars. People will want to buy them because they're better, because it's a thrilling ride. And I thought you got that, which was really cool. But I'd like to ask you to talk a little bit about one of the other things you mentioned to me, because I talked a little bit about the fact that you went with this conventional styling. Really can't tell that it's an electric vehicle, other than some badging and if you lift the frunk. And you said that you did extensive research on possibly building some like crazy sci-fi looking vehicle, obviously alluding to what Tesla is planning to do one day. But you decided against doing that. Could you tell our followers why? Oh, yeah,
absolutely. I mean, everything to do with vehicle production for customers is about what is possible and what is right for your company. It's super important. This is why we chose to build a Mustang for our electric, because that's ours. That's us. We're not trying to be someone else. We're not be true to ourselves, but recognizing what the market wants. The market, we believe, and the fundamental of our EV strategy, the market wants a new product like an iPhone or smartphone versus a flip phone. The technology enables an all new product, not just a powertrain. A flip phone with a big screen is not an iPhone. And so that's the fundamental of our strategy. Make things that are so compelling They bring people in. It shows them why. Now, you know that once they drive it and once they use their life with it, they're going to love it. They're never going back. I actually said last week, I have never met a Mach-E owner who says they're going back. Not one single person. Because you've been doing it for a lot longer than me. People will be hooked once they switch over, right? So when it came to F-150, we researched what shall we do, and we have the resources to do what the customers want, and we looked at something very radical and said this could be a choice. We checked this with our customers and also the wider market. We didn't just stick to our customers. Then we looked at what was in the art of possible with what we have, and we wanted to bring. They're really interested. It's a tool. An F-150 is a tool. It's the best tool, and anything that it does that isn't in the aim of being a better tool is a waste in the eyes of those customers. So things like the Mega Power Frank is 400 liters that they never had before, and use cases they never had before. There's the work truck like this, but just as many are talking about tailgating or putting their golf bags in and having the power in there to power the rangefinder. They're actually more excited by that because that's their personal life, not just business. So features like that and the backup power are what they really, really wanted. So if we did it this way, we could make use of the billions we've already invested. And because we have an aluminium body, we can still meet the payload requirements for the vehicle in its total weight. We could bring a vehicle like this to market for $39,974. And that's what we have. We have scale, and we have maybe 7 million units of buy on the top hat. And that means we can give value to customers. So the total product you see, we can bring at that really good price. And a really well-spec'd vehicle, you're going to also find at a price point that people pay regularly for gas. And that's our approach and our competitive advantage. So that's why we took that one. And that's right for now. Many years from now, it may be different, but that's right for just now. And that's why we're one of the first to the market. And I'd argue the first with a full-size pickup that's valid like this, and certainly the cheapest as well. So that was our strategy. And so far, so good. The customers seem to be reacting well to that.
We have one question from Buddy here. Will the F-150 be sold in Europe? So is it an international vehicle?
It's not. And now the F-150, I love it. Of course, I'm from Europe, and I was in Germany most recently, 10 years. But it's really large. It's really large. And one of the great things about it is that you can fit people inside it so well, and luggage and things, and have space in the rear. But that's what you can do with a vehicle that's large. When you shrink it down, it's not quite the same. So we have the Ranger there. But an F-150 really, I believe, is too big for most of Europe. I'm getting a lot of requests now, and we're considering for certain markets and saying, could it fit certain markets? Right. Norway, of course, we're getting huge requests for, and others. But so we will consider it for other places we sell F-150. But I would say it's probably a bit too large for a lot of Europe.
Right.
Yeah, guys, I can definitely attest to that. I was up in Richmond, which is technically London, but it's, the outsidey bits of London. But a very historic place that London has kind of as it's grown, consumed, and when the big red double-decker famous London buses come past, you kind of go, oh, breathe in. And a Ford F-150 import came past me, left-hand drive and all that, and I was like, oh, breathe in. Look, our roads are not designed for cars that big. I mean, obviously we have trucks and buses, but this was just kind of pootling around the pedestrian center, and it did look ridiculously large. So for us, what we would call a larger SUV or a larger pickup is probably what you guys would call a compact version. But we don't have that kind of culture like, Aussies have utes and tradies, and we have the white Ford Transit van. Like, our culture is white van man. So I don't think it'll be massively missed here, to be honest.
Right. So Darren mentioned Norway, and that's where Kyle is right now, driving along the fjords. So, Kyle, do you have a question for Darren? You're muted right now. Okay.
Hey, Darren, thanks so much for joining our show. Sorry, I'm doing this from a car and not our typical studio, but I'll give you a quick glimpse. Absolutely gorgeous views here in Norway. We've seen tons of electric cars, tons of Mach-Es everywhere. It's been really great. Hey, so Darren, from my experience, we've seen about where early days, I think, I took a Mustang Mach-E on a road trip. We had plug-in charge compatibility issues. We had charging curve issues during our initial testing. And a lot of these were design decisions for, again, that Gen 1 that you were saying. Can you explain why the strategy was to do a time-based charging algorithm on the Mach-E, again, like 160 seconds or 200 seconds at 160 kilowatts? And then part two of that question is, I've now been hearing Mach-E owners arriving to charging stations and getting 200 kilowatts. Is this the charger not regulating their power correctly? Because we've run into this all over the US. Or is this the car actually with a new, faster charging update?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier, the car is fully over-the-air updatable. Every single module, even the shift controller. I'm not sure what we're going to do with it, but we made it updatable anyway because of things we may add in the future. That includes the entire BMS system and everything to do with it. So we signed off that car. That's our first ground-up electric vehicle. That car is signed off to, in any conditions, anywhere on the planet, that car will perform well and last for its entire life. At 8 years, we still guarantee that that battery will be 70% plus. In reality, it will be much more than that because otherwise we'd have a huge warranty bill. So we went in cautious, and that vehicle, our customers can be sure of the resale value of that vehicle. And that's where we started. Now, the thing is, a worst case in Arizona, having just gone up a really tall hill and entering a DC charge station, is different from other use cases. So, but we started there. Now, we've said also, we are working on improving this, and we're listening to customers. We listen to social media, first thing I do every day, and my whole team. We have connected digital data. We listen to all the podcasts and we engage with customers. This is what matters, listening and talking to our customers. So we're already working on charge curve updates and maximum charge point updates for charging. We've been recently hearing those on a longer trip would like to push their charge up higher before they start the trip on a DC. And at the moment, our strategy does cut it off. It cuts it off to trickle charge at 80%. Now, at first, we saw 95% of customers charging at home, and we didn't have the call for it. Now we're starting to see a call for it from those customers. So we started reacting. We are working on it, and we're going to deploy updates to that. I won't say timing yet because I've got to get through it, some testing, but I'm aiming to get there for the winter season. And to do some updates for customers. So we're going to change the top charge point, let's say near a 90, so that if you want to, you can push it to 90, because this is one of the largest range cars in the world, one of only few, and we want them to be able to make maximum use of it. If you start from home, you're 100% anyway, and you got it now. But if you want to start from DC, then yes, it takes a long time to get to 90 today. So that we're going to change that. And we're going to do it over the air, and we're going to do it in production with all cars quite soon. And then there's the curve. The curve is set currently for maximum to give you two things. The best we could give you in 15 minutes. That's why it peaks high at 150, but it does drop down quickly. And then the best we could give you for a full charge, 10 to 80 in about 40 minutes. So that's what it's set up for at the moment. And I believe we can push it further by taking your conditions into account. If you're in a beautiful 20 degrees or 70 degrees F area and the battery's not stressed out, we believe you can give you more. In fact, if you're a person who is mainly using the car at home and then you go on the occasional trip, we could probably push it even further because you're a long way from damaging your battery. And that's what we're looking out for. We're making sure that we are looking after your battery for you. You could charge that car to 100% every single day. I'm even considering maybe I don't need to let you charge to 100% every day because that's not your exact use case, right? So I might even pull that back, say to you, hey, we advise you to charge to 80 or 90, and then I could even give you greater EPA range. I'm thinking about that, but I've got to know.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, but I've got to know that customers are not going to charge to 90 every day, 100 every day, because if they did in that case, they would damage their batteries over time, okay? But we see it, we're working on it now, and this is what we're going to do. But there's a whole series of updates coming now. We've been turning on all the modules. You have to turn them on first, and we have to be careful. We're going to be updating 1 million vehicles a year soon, and every update, and we've got to be careful that it doesn't cause problems there. So we have an A/B swap. It downloads and then it swaps over so that if anything happens, it comes back and your car still works. Our system does that, but we've been switching all the modules on one at a time. That's what these updates are today. And I can't drop things in until all the modules are switched on. They're nearly all done now. And so you're going to see Blue Cruise coming in now in September and October for the whole, for everywhere that it's valid. You'll see them coming into the cars. And with it, you're going to get games, you're going to get puzzles, you're going to get fun stuff, and you're going to get range improvements and other improvements as well. The good stuff's coming now towards the end of the year.
That's so exciting. Can't wait for it at all. Can't wait to go and do all these new charging tests and take it on another road trip with these new profiles. Sounds really awesome. I have one last question from my side, which is the thermal management strategy, especially looking forward to Mach-E GT. So in regular Mach-E, for example, if I'm on a back road and it's a Mustang, I want to drive it quickly, I can get a couple minutes of flat out driving, and then turtle mode comes on and it gets hot. And this will happen in rear wheel or all wheel. So what's the strategy for the performance car? Owners are really running into this in their normal Mach-Es, but the GTs will be driven hard. So how are you going to keep it cool?
Right. So we heard you. We heard the customers on the first days, and we didn't have the GT finished. So I added it all into the GT. So I've got to tell you, I just finished driving the GT last weekend, Performance Edition. In my opinion, I may be biased, that is what a car in a decade. That, I believe, I would describe that as 30% better than the Premium. It's an inch lower, or electronic shock absorbers, massive power, 0 to 60 in 3.5, and the initial acceleration is 0.93 G. It's incredible. So you wouldn't feel that in many cars on the planet, actually. Only a few cars at triple the price would feel anything like that. So that's the first piece. The second piece is we knew that people are going to use it for other things. They want to try it on a track. So, and with these tires, it's got the summer tires, it grips really well. It feels like a saloon, but that is raised, not like an SUV. And so it handles amazingly, and people are going to use that. So we have also managed the thermal management system, and we have a specific mode for track driving. And that track driving optimizes the car to give you the most. It will give you more laps, or in your use case, it will give you more time. It will restrict a few things down a little bit, but to be honest, it's face melting at the moment. It will take it from face melting to face squashing, and still really be very powerful. So it doesn't cut much off.
I think that's so great. Yeah, take the real peaks down to the point where it can kind of manage itself a bit. It sounds, 3.5 seconds stupid to 60. That's crazy fast already. So it's just going to be so neat. I can't wait to take it on a back road. Of course, we're going to do track stuff. And I've already spoken with some of your team. We have requested an extra set of tires to be delivered when we have some time with it. And so we will certainly have some fun when we get the car.
Yeah, this one, the press drive is in October, and actually some customers got the cars ahead. But the press drive's October, and I'm hoping, this is the one with a full Ford Performance team on it. This is the one that really shows you the handling. When you go on a sweeping bend and you put your foot down, the car yaws around its center and kind of half comes to the point where it's going to let the back loose, and you have to actually turn the steering wheel back to the left a little bit. It just feels great, and it's supposed to. It's a Mustang. That's our thing, and where we've put all our tuning, and we tuned that on the our multi-million-dollar driving simulator system that we use for our race cars, and it was done by Dave Perazak as well, our long-time chief of performance and long-time guru in Ford Performance.
Yeah, I got to go in that simulator, got to hang out with Dave for a day. It was really great. What an awesome experience. But so exciting to hear that the GT is really going to be the performance electric Mustang. I think I've really been waiting for that, paired with the new charging curve. Sounds like it might be a real spicy machine. Domenick, thanks for letting me ask my questions. Those were my two big ones.
No problem. Hey, quickly, Ford is an investor in Rivian, and I understand that you were going to build a vehicle for Ford and Lincoln on that platform, but then the Lincoln vehicle is canceled. Is it still the plan to build a vehicle for Ford on that? Or
So
I know you can't talk about. Sorry.
So we were impressed with the company, and that's why our founder Bill Ford actually put it together, and we invested with them. We like their philosophy and their approach, and they're really a lifestyle electric car company, and they also sell to Amazon as well. So that's why we were interested, and we thought we could offer them some things, how to get into volume production. They could offer us things, how to act more like a startup. So that's why we invested. That has happened. We've been collaborating very well together. We thought about doing a Lincoln, and then we found a different way to do it, and we thought it was more effective. So we chose something different. We still talk with them about vehicles, and we've nothing to share at the moment. But we're going to continue collaborating with them. Impressive company. We're watching them have their rollout. The teams, the CEOs have regular discussions together about the things they face. And yeah, we're going to continue collaborating. That's why we invested in them.
Right. I see the opportunity for really good synergies between the two companies. Yeah, that's awesome. So, Martin, do you have something?
Yeah, let me unmute myself. Yeah, can I ask Darren about semiconductor shortages? As a consumer, admittedly with an interest in automotive, I still really don't know what this means. I just want to be able to know that companies I love are going to make a load of great EVs. Can you shed any light on, because I get that my car has a computer and an infotainment display, there's probably a graphics chip inside it. But when you hear that, electric seats can't be installed because of the semiconductor shortage, it's like, this just seems such a huge thing. Can you just tell us a little bit more about what it really means real world in terms of getting great EVs on the road? How does it affect you in terms of your initial plans? How far behind do you get? And still, are you still going to be able to get loads of great EVs on the roads despite all of this?
Yeah, it's a fascinating story, and a lot of people have been writing about it. But it started with our suppliers and us and order components with chips in them. And the chips that in question are not high-tech, high-powered chips like you imagine. They're the tiny little $1 power management chips and similar that are in things like a camera for the car, a power control module, just the seat control module. They're also in Bluetooth speakers, laptops, and consumer tech. And the industry dropped their orders when COVID hit to try and manage their inventories. And then when it came back strong, they all ordered back again. And the suppliers, it's fascinating, the suppliers operate ordered, you get the first supply. And they won't change that for anyone, because literally presidents call them and ask them to reprioritize. And this has happened before. So they choose first in, first out, no exceptions. And they don't keep changing the price every week either, because when we're missing a $1 chip for a $60,000 truck, we could pay more, right? But that's not how it works. It works one in, one out. So that means us and the rest of the car industry didn't have enough chips. At the same time, the electronics industry went up because you see so much home use, and therefore you see the shortage. So that was difficult to break. Now, our purchasing teams, you could imagine what's at stake. We're talking about really multi-billions, and the country's infrastructure. So all of the car companies are close in on this and working with the suppliers, of course. And what they have worked out, they've secured additional capacity, and that additional capacity can go to the automotive industry, who probably have to pay a little bit more for it. But we've secured that. Takes a little bit of time to come in, and that's how we're getting more chips now. Now, it doesn't solve the crisis overnight, but there's a committee running every single day, working out where we put them, how we build cars. If we can build cars and just drop them in, it means the cars will come much faster. If we stop production, that does slow things down. And then we may lose production at the end of the year because we just can't make it up. So we're working every day to build the cars and put them on wheels. And then we're doing extra checks on the cars and so on, looking after them because we know that they've been on wheels for a bit longer. We know about that. So that's what it affects. It's not really anything to do with EV cars. It's to do with general cars. And the EV cars actually tend to have higher tech chips in them, and they're not the ones we've been short on. It's the small little chips on the things you mentioned, right? And we are prioritizing electric cars because apart from anything else, we need to meet quotas and balance, especially in Europe and China. So we're balancing that every day. In fact, I gave a few more to Europe recently because they must meet their quota. And then I've had to park some cars for US, and we're going to put the chips in now and start delivering back to US again, fast again in October. So this is what's happening. And it's a really difficult management task. But it's the sort of thing that these companies are very good at. Logistics, building a car every 40 seconds in any given plant. There's a lot of logistics there. So the team's very skilled at that.
We're getting a lot of questions about future product, and you can't speak to those. But somebody did ask about, Jan asked about your deal with Volkswagen. I believe you're planning a vehicle based on their MEB platform. Is that still in the works?
Yes, we are. Oh, very, very heavily. So we partnered with VW because in Europe, they're going to have the scale there of those smaller cars. And of course, as you mentioned, that's where there's going to be a lot of customers. We import the Mach-E, and it's super popular there. Norway, best-selling car in Norway last month, I believe. So we're importing those bigger ones because that's the most efficient way to do it. But for the smaller ones, it's better to be with VW. So we're partnering with them. But our car is being developed off of that platform, but to be a Ford, to be our attributes. So you'll see things, again, that is, for us, it's a different character to a VW car. And there's plenty of space in this market at the moment, right? It's growing so fast. There's plenty of space for everybody. We believe everyone, you go into your space, be true to yourself. We focus on our icons in the rest of the world, where people recognize, and give them things they never had before. So we're focused there, and each company will do their own thing, and I'm sure they'll all be great in their own way. We're staying in our space.
So are you saying that your MEB vehicle will be on the smaller side?
Yes, it will. Yes, more like an ID.3 or 4. This space of sight. Yeah, so because that's what that market's looking for at a lower price. We've already got the Mach-E, really great, but we need a smaller, cheaper vehicle. But it needs to be with our character, and that's not it, of course.
Right. This is.
Well, I'll bring a page up and see what Darren's. That's not real. That's
definitely nothing like it. But
no.
But what's important is it must have character for Ford, and it must do things that we know our customer will love. So again, it has features that you could never do in gas, and things customers are going to love that are going to tempt them in to come and look at EVs. Now in Europe, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, there's different, and China's different. Europe was more incentive driven, Norway leading the charge, Netherlands not far behind. The whole PHEV discussion, really interesting, and what happened there. So they're pushing it, where US is pulling from the customer, I would say, and then China's also pushing it in a different way. So 3 different strategies, but we believe the one that wins is the one that gets customers' hearts. So we're all in on making cars that are just really lovable and fit their lives. That's what we're going for, to tempt them in.
So you can't talk about future products, but listening to you say that, can you blink twice if Bronco Lightning is a thing?
One more person asked me about Bronco Lightning. So we have a whole series of electric cars coming. We've got a $30 billion investment to do that just by 25. Just by 25. And a large part, there's going to be such a massive growth over the next few years. And now we're super confident it's going to happen. So the investments we're making for the truck and the platform is huge. You will see more about it in the next 3 weeks.
Right.
Okay. But we are bringing it locally to where they're produced, because that's how you get to the price points that you need. And things like the F-150 and the truck and that platform, which will support the SUV coming afterwards. We're making huge investments, multiple plants, epic levels of investment, to be honest, and the whole supply chain, because we know soon there will be a shortage in the supply chain. So we're into that as well. And we're even looking at end of life and how that works as well. So there's going to be more to announce on that. Really, in the next 3 weeks, you're going to see a lot coming through. Ford is all in. And that means you can be sure, as along the sequence of cars, we're going to give people the cars they want. And we know we can see which cars they're asking for, right? The SUVs are next. The world is crying out for family SUVs that are electric. We know, and our next vehicles, the Explorer type electric, the Aviator type electric, I believe are some of the best cars I've ever worked on. and do things that gas never did. Very clear things that gas never did. And I believe they will pull another generation of people into electric who have been waiting for their family, their main family vehicle. So I'm very excited about those as well. They're coming 23.
Well, that's some pretty amazing, exciting news then. So you've been with us for 30 or so minutes. I don't know if you can stay or if anyone has any last quick questions before we let them go.
Dom, I'd like to grab one more thing really quickly because I think it's really important before Darren leaves. We talked, Darren, in the truck about range confidence when towing a trailer, when filling up the truck with a bunch of payload, because that's something that is important to pickup truck drivers. You know, the vehicle might have a 300-mile range, but they have no idea how far it'll go if they have an 8,000-pound trailer that's, you know, has the aerodynamics of a toaster. But what you're doing is spending a lot of effort trying to give them that confidence that they can configure the trailer that they have. I think the vehicle allows you to configure up to 4 different types of trailers, and then it has the onboard scales. And what you told me was your goal is to make sure that the range estimator nails the driving range within 5% plus or minus after they have it loaded up with cargo and a trailer. Could you talk a little bit about that and why that's so important?
Fantastic question. So 70% of the people reserving an F-150, 80% of people reserving an F-150 never had a BEV. And you know the learning curve of a BEV. And imagine the learning curve of a truck user for a BEV with towing. Yeah, this is not to be underestimated, right? So we're designing a system that's going to do everything they need. That means you have to measure the weight in the back. That's why it's got a weighing scale. You have to know the trailer. That's why you can load a trailer. It's much more than 4, by the way. It's a large number of trailers. And you will enter the trailer in, and you can enter rough dimensions. And then the vehicle will say to you, thank you, please validate trailer. You will drive for 10 minutes, and it will measure the trailer and validate. Now, when you make a trip, we will tell our customers, all you do is go into the vehicle system and arrange your trip, either in the vehicle or on the app. And then the vehicle will take into account the trailer, the weight, the topography, the weather, typical traffic conditions, and when the chargers are. And it will tell you how to make your route. It will say, go to this charger and wait for this long, go to this charger and wait for this long. They're all on the Blue Oval network, which today is the biggest network in America. And because we just assimilate all new charging networks, it will just grow and grow and grow. By the time we launch, it's going to be a much bigger number. And so the truck does all the work for you before you drive off. Because our goal is that when we tell you the range and how many miles you'll have at that first stop, that never changes. When you're going up a hill and you're drawing much more power because you're going up a hill, the car has broken that trip into tiny segments, and it says, wow, you're using a lot of power. And it says, oh, but I expect that because I know you're going to be going up this hill facing a wind. But when you get to the other side, you're going to be going down and still maybe facing a wind, but you're going down. And so that's how we do it accuracy. This is a patented system that is using a cloud-based system to do it. That's what we're developing. It's actually switched on right now on the Mac E, but it's not customer facing. Every journey they make, we compare the average to what we told them. And I can tell you that average is spot on, except there's a bell curve of some people in very cold conditions or hot conditions or very extreme driving that are not as accurate as we want. And so we're adding those variables so we can bring that curve down so that we're within 5% before you leave your drive. And that's a real big task, but it's so important for truck drivers, especially if you're towing.
Wow. That's some pretty amazing technology y'all are bringing out there. You can't imagine that just, a few years ago that, the truck weighing itself and being able to judge all those different factors and range and all that.
I'll say one thing I'll say as well is before we launch this truck, I think we need to do an education series for customers, for everyone. And we're going to do something. I think I want to do something called The Truth About BEV Towing. And I talked to Tom about it, and maybe we can do it with you guys, where we really go and show this to people and explain how it works. Because I think the first question they're going to ask me with this truck, what happens when I put a 10,000 pound trailer on? The first question they're going to ask me, and I think we want to answer wrong question. Or why is it the wrong question? Well, because what you really want to know is, can I make the journeys I want to make?
Right.
Okay. And so I need to answer all of that question. Where do I go? Where do I stop? For how long? Not just what happens. So what? What am I going to do? Right. So I think that's an education thing. And I think, we're working on that before we launch, and you guys seem a good partner to do that with.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've seen a number of questions about pull-through trailers at Electrify America. And I know you can't speak to what they're doing, but I just wanted to say that out loud because it seems to be a concern.
But also, can I just ask about how you work with charging networks? I was talking to a CEO of a charging network recently, and he had a case where a car new to the market pulled up and wouldn't charge, and his company with hundreds of millions of euros of investment, simply because and I don't know, he doesn't make the chargers, but he was buying them in from I won't say who. It just seems a fabulously hard problem for somebody to kind of grab by the scruff of the neck almost and say, look, we've got people making cars over here, we've got people making the hardware here, we've got resellers, we've got OEMs, and then we've got charge point operators. How involved do you get with just trying to make sure that everyone's talking to everyone so that when a customer buys your car, they can actually charge it?
Absolutely. And just as a side point, just to show you the world today, my alerts are popping up in the corner of the screen from the Mackie forum, what I said 10 minutes ago. So this is the connected world we have today, right? They're talking about charging speed and threshold, right? This is wonderful. This is the new world. We're open to that. If we listen, we can make it better together, right? Once we made them updatable, we're going to do it together. And if we do something the customer doesn't like, we'll change it, right? So just wanted to illustrate that point. That's how fast the world is today. I love that, okay? So now to your question, how are we? So a guy called Matt Stover leads our charging strategy for me. And he is on speed dial with the CEO of EA Electrify America. Of course he is, because we're going to be one of the biggest users. And now with the truck, they can see, they know anyway, we're going to be one of the biggest users of this network. And so we are, their success is our success. And so when we had the first vehicles on the first day and we plugged and charged and they didn't work the first day, we're on with that CEO that morning. What can we do? Why is that? What can we do, right? And we have a metric running every week. What is the metric? First plug and charge success across the whole of the nation and Europe. Click, did it work? And we measure that. And it's not where I want it to be. Now, I know that 99.4% of customers who plug in to charge get one. I know that. But not 99.4 get it first time. They sometimes have to unplug, plug. Sometimes they have to authorize on the app. And worst case, they have to use a credit card. We see those metrics. We're not happy about them. Every week, we're pushing them. In fact, I decided that the connected data is still not telling us. I had an incident of a social media drive. They tried to use a charger. That charger was in the process of being moved from a New York network to EA. And the back-end system failed that day and it didn't work. And that's going to happen. It's going to happen. But our network didn't pick it up. It didn't pick up. It was broken. And we sent a customer there. Not good enough. So we're actually going to send teams out with instrumented vehicles and target them wherever we see issue areas. I've got to tell you, New York, New Jersey, I always find issues there. Okay, and other parts of the country.
That's because Tom lives there. That's his fault.
He's breaking them all. He keeps breaking them.
So we're sending instrumented vehicles there that could do end-to-end analysis. So when it fails, we see why. Because there's a lot of reasons, pre-authorization and the whole sequence through. So our goal is to have a very, very accurate network, Ford Oval charging network, and that it's reliable. And if a charger fails, we take it out of the network within minutes. That's our goal, and we're working on that. And we might need some new ways of doing that, like the customer telling us on the screen or something, right? We're working on it. We're good, because it has to be. We can't send a customer to a broken charger. We understand, and we're gonna make sure we don't.
Well, I'd like to. You've been with us like 45 minutes, which is way longer than we even asked you for. So I'd like to really thank you for being so generous with your time. And what we've heard today, I think, is really encouraging about Ford's electrification program and the product and how you're updating and improving and listening to the customers. I think that's like a hugely important thing. And yeah, it's very encouraging. I don't know if anyone has anything else they'd like to say real quick.
Yeah, I want to say big thanks. I also want to mention I'm on not a fully electric, but a hybrid ferry right now with a Mustang Mach-E just overhead. So in Norway, which is pretty great and very fitting.
It's fantastic. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Anytime, let's stay close.
All right. Thank you very much.
Right.
Bye-bye. All right. Wow. We're not hearing you, Tom.
Tom, you're muted. How
I
amazing
just wanted
was
to
that?
remind him, Darren, I'm sure he's still listening. I'm clearing our schedule here at Inside EVs for that educational series on the F-150 Lightning towing.
Yeah, that's I don't have words. So
That was really cool to hear someone so senior admit we don't always get it right.
Right, yeah, that's great.
And we want to get it right. 'Cause I think the thing that annoys me the most sometimes is when you hear people at the top of companies that either don't know the reality, especially EVs. Like, I think every senior manager knows, drives an EV, charges an EV. We see Herbert Deese on LinkedIn taking road trips in his ID.4, took his summer holidays. I don't think that was just, for show. I genuinely think he did. But then the worst thing is when you hear, like, of any walk of life, any senior manager go, well, everything's fine, but if we do have issues, then just let me know and my team will look at it. And to hear someone like him saying, hey, look, like I want to see, like, when you plug in for the first time, I get that data. I didn't know that. That's fascinating. And he wouldn't tell us what the number is, but to know that he wants to get it, to 100%. I think that's super cool.
I'm going to have to watch this whole podcast over again just so I can get all the information back in my head. There's a lot of stuff in there, and hugely encouraging. So we want to talk about what we're driving this week. Kyle, I don't know if you want to start. You have a good connection right now. Maybe we should take advantage of that.
Yeah, I do. It's been awesome. We're just rolling off this car ferry here. We are in a place called
what a great place.
Skalawagen.
I know that.
So we just, right? You know where we are, right? So we are in the northwest corner of Norway, but in the big bit, not where it goes up towards the Arctic Circle. We're shooting a video called A Lap of Norway, and a rental car company called Marcus Beal reached out and they said, hey, do you want to use one of our cars for the trip? And we've been driving a Porsche Taycan in mainland Europe, but we actually couldn't bring that vehicle into Norway because it's not part of the EU. So we took a bus from Gothenburg to Oslo. Marcus Beal gave us an address to meet him. It was a Tesla delivery center. Marcus was taking delivery of the Model Y. We saw him for like 3 minutes. He said, here are the key cards. Bring it back with as many miles as you can. And now we're driving a made-in-China Model Y dual motor right now. Actually, Alyssa's driving. And we're just rolled off the ferry. Built well, having an amazing time. This country is the most beautiful place I've ever been by far. I'm just blown away, more so by the country, the charging infrastructure, than I am the car. Norway is the place, folks. This is the big story.
Right on. So what can you tell us about this made in China Model Y? Like, and in what ways is it really screwed together better? Is it fit and finish?
No, it's fine. And the Fremont cars have been great, I thought. Right. I've driven probably 50 or 60 different Model Ys now. I have tons of friends with them. I have family with them, and they all drive great. They all feel like they're put together really well. No issues here. I mean, this one actually has a little bit of a rattle. Every Model Y I've driven kind of has, and it also has a little bit of a grinding noise when I turn all the way. So, like, it's not perfect, and I probably will lose you here in a second, but it's screwed together really well, and the new headlights are brighter than the US ones.
Oh, nice. So, what else have you been driving this week? Is that the only thing? Oh, he's frozen.
We may have. I mean, he's driving through the mountains of Norway, so
right, which is pretty amazing that we have technology now. We can connect with the guy on the road, like a video. So cool. It's like,
he's not wearing his cowboy hat over there, though. That's disappointing.
Yeah,
very disappointing.
Okay, well, why don't I talk about what I've been driving this week, because usually it's Kyle and Tom all the time. Sometimes Martin, have like cool vehicles. Well, this was my week, and it was great. So I went to Chattanooga this week, and I got religion. I test drove the Volkswagen ID.4 all-wheel drive for a few hours on some really awesome Tennessee mountain roads, and I was really impressed overall. Long-time viewers may remember I test drove the rear-wheel drive version last spring on a test drive with my sister, Robin, and we thought it was a pretty good, but I wasn't necessarily enthusiastic about it. The power was okay, but it wasn't like hugely impressive. I found the ride a bit choppy over some, rough roads or speed bumps. The car I drove in Tennessee was much better. It was the Pro S. So it goes Volkswagen ID.4, there's Pro and there's Pro S, and then there's a upscale gradient package for $1,500 that gives you 20-inch wheels, a black roof, some silver roof rails and accents. It just kind of dresses it up kind of nicely. But I just drove the Pro S, so still all the nice things. They come spec'd really well. Even the Pro version, you can't really go wrong with it. So this did have the glass roof and the massaging lumbar seat. The all-wheel drive also sits a smidge higher. It's got like 0.6 of an inch more ground clearance. The turning radius isn't quite as good as the rear-wheel drive version, which is amazing. But it's got like 36.4 feet, which is still, really good. Range takes a small hit. The all-wheel drive Pro is EPA rated for 249 miles, and the Pro S 240 miles. And what I saw it will get that, no problem. That's about 10 miles less than the rear-wheel drive version. So this, a little bit of a hit. More importantly, though, it had 295 horsepower and 339 pound-feet of torque. So that's enough for 5.4 second 0 to 60, which is better than I've seen a 5.7 number floating around there. But what that translates to in climbing to like a mountain road is just like effortless acceleration, regardless of how steep the road is. Just pointing up, you put your foot down, and it just whatever is just you're going. So as important as that power is going up, the regen in B mode coming down was like just transformative. I don't even know what to say about it. So I was sharing a car with a local reporter, Mike Parr, and so the first part of my driving was on a downhill. So he had the car in drive, and I was having to dab the brakes a lot to keep the speed in check, because there's all these crazy turns coming up. So handling, I twisted the little gear selector dog ear thing forward another time to put it in B mode, and the change was like miraculous. I didn't have to touch the brakes hardly at all after that. It just brought a feeling of control into the descent, like controlled falling. It was like transformative. Anyway, so handling wise, the car is rear bias with a motor on the back axle, making about double the horsepower and torque as the front motor. So it felt really great going around the curves and switchbacks. It took everything that the road had and just dealt with it just as nicely as you'd like. It really felt almost like a sports car, except you're sitting high up, so you have a better view of the road. And I don't know, it wasn't perfect. There was some glitch in the navigation on the way back. Right after we took this picture of the one of the cars in front of the cornfield. This was actually right outside this little country store run by Mennonites. So there was like a hitch, so there were a couple of horse and wagons had pulled up as we were there, and hitched themselves to the post. I should have taken a picture. I did not. I'm an idiot. So the navigation on the way back, we were supposed to go back the same way we came, but for some reason it wanted to send everybody down this little tiny gravel road, and some people went down for ways and turned around. I'm not sure if anyone went all the way. I think it did eventually meet up with the route that we had planned, but we didn't go do that. We kept on going the way we'd come. But at one point, the navigation on our vehicle, I don't think anyone else had this issue, but it just kept telling us to turn around, make a U-turn, this and that. Like it didn't want to go to like the Chattanooga Volkswagen factory, where we were going to have like a factory tour of where they assembled the batteries.
It's like, don't bring me back there. I get fully charged.
Man, for like an hour, that navigation voice was just like, make a U-turn, make a U-turn. It was just all.
You could just mute the voice or just turn it off.
Well, I was hoping that would figure it out, at some point, so.
Yeah, my guess is what happened, the Volkswagen does this a lot on their events, is they program in your own route, and then it's trying to go to a previous waypoint. and it's hard to get it out of that waypoint to say you've gone to the next destination. It's possible. I'm not defending Volkswagen in any way here.
No.
Their nav system sucks. It sucks, but that is a logical explanation.
Yeah, I did like a lot of things about it. Like the screen was, I think we had the bigger screen. It's like a 12.5-inch screen instead of the 10-point that comes with the Pro. That was pretty nice. It was responsive, and tried the different modes out. But yeah, that navigation. I was really lucky to have like a local reporter guy who knew the area to take me back. If I had been on my own, I'd still be there. Maybe I'd be in Kentucky. I don't know. And I didn't actually. I would have been happy. I would have stayed out there all day. Like how much I loved driving on those roads, I can't even tell you. It was like so good. Oh man. Okay. I don't know. I should shut up about it now. Anyone have any questions about the all-wheel drive? I haven't been watching the.
Well, so the all-wheel drive motor works. Sorry if I'm cutting in and out or all, but essentially it's rear biased until you exceed the power limitation of the rear motor, and then it engages the front motor, which is an induction motor, which means you don't need a clutch pack to disengage the motor. So it's technically free spinning. It should be the same as rear-wheel drive ID.4 until you go past maybe 70% throttle, and then really the only difference in range is just this this motor, I guess, weight you're hauling around.
Right. I didn't really get the chance to really kind of. The gentleman I was with was a little older, and I didn't want to scare him or wreck the car. I really wanted to get a feel for what it was doing dynamically. There's Kyle's showing us, if you're watching us on YouTube, Kyle is showing us the scenery. He's going over a huge body of water in Norway that's beautiful. Oh, wow. Those are some roads as well. That's a whole different thing. I wonder what the mountain roads, and you have plenty of mountains. I guess you have mountain roads there.
Oh, it's insane. We were just on this road called Trollstigen, which means troll pass or troll road. And it's one of the most famous mountain passes you can drive. And we were just shredding this Model Y up and down. I mean, this is a good case for having track mode here, but man, we've really just fallen in love with Norway. The roads are incredible. The people are great. And obviously the scenery is, it's crazy. We got to come back like next week. We have some events in the US, and Alyssa and I we're just coming right back as soon as we're done with the US.
It's pretty amazing for charging infrastructure there as well, because an 80 or 85% of all new cars sold have a plug socket on. That's obviously the nation's car park takes a while to go fully electric, but when diesel and petrol are in the minority, the infrastructure goes in, and so you must have found yourself just easily charging wherever you want to stop, really.
Yeah, well, I actually was really more curious to take the Taycan up here before we found out we couldn't, because I wanted to test the CCS infrastructure, the public infrastructure, more so than Tesla's already fantastic network, pretty much wherever you go. Unfortunately, it didn't work. We have the Model Y, not complaining about it. It's great. But like every town has at least one or two DC fast chargers. And I'm talking like a collection of 4 buildings would have a DC fast charger, but no one is using them. They are just empty because I think everyone charges at home and the distances are pretty short. So with range, with home charging, we've seen, right, Alyssa, maybe like 5 Teslas charging this entire trip.
Yeah,
not many. And we've been at banks of like 20 chargers and 30 chargers, and it's just deserted. It's really, honestly, pretty weird. And on the roads, yes, you see electric cars, but not as many as like I had imagined in my head. You hear 89 cars are going to be EV, and like new stuff is electric, but there's so many cars still in the fleets. So it's like 1 in every 10 cars will be a battery electric vehicle.
Interesting. Yeah, that's how it goes, right? You can't make the switch overnight. It's going to take a while for the existing fleet to go away. Hey, before we go on, I wanted to just mention that I didn't talk about it too much, but I took a factory tour of the Volkswagen ID.4 there in Chattanooga. They just expanded it they have their own section for the ID.4. So the production is going to be kicking off like for customers sometime in the second half of next year. I would think probably like a year from now, maybe a little earlier. The guide mentioned though, we're on this little train of golf carts going through the factory. I don't know if you can find the video of that real quick. Yeah, that's the inspection, the final inspection inspection station. So
how long have these cars been in production there?
So they're not yet. They're making a few. They have to make hundreds of them to get the line up, and they're still putting the line together and measuring tolerances. They have the robots kind of going and not doing anything, but just kind of going to kind of judge and measure how it would go in production. But they do have some vehicles, being made, but they're pre-production vehicles. But so the guide mentioned that they're building 2 battery packs. So I think it's very possible that we'll see like a more affordable ID.4 at some point. Like, so this one, the all-wheel drive, starts at $43,675 with 3 years of free Electrify America and 3 years of 24-hour roadside assistance and 2 years of carefree maintenance. It's a pretty good deal. But there's going to be, I think, a more.
Yeah, but isn't it already announced that we'll get the mid-sized pack? We'll get the 62 kilowatt hour gross, 58 usable in the US. I thought that was the plan for that factory, only to make that battery pack originally.
They're going to make both sizes. I don't know, Tom, you had.
Yeah, I think they're going to make both sizes, but that was announced earlier, and I believe at the time they were estimating it was going to start at 35,000. So that is going to be available here in the US, the smaller battery, and it's supposed to be launched at a base MSRP at about 35.
And I have to say, I've been testing this smaller battery in the Volkswagen ID.3, which is sitting at the Nürburgring. We have to go back there and collect it, and then go do some more stuff with it. We've had Taycan and ID.3 on the Nürburgring this week, and Renault Zoe, which was hilarious.
Tell us.
But the 62 kilowatt hour gross pack in the ID.3 is awesome. Tons of range, more than everything we need, and fairly good charging. I have the brand new software update that I don't think's been widely released to the public, and 130 kilowatt charging, which is more than the 77 kilowatt hour in the ID.4. So impressive.
Yeah, and think about it. Oh, sorry, Martin. You'll get an ID.4 in the US for under $30,000 with the federal tax credit. I mean, that's bringing affordable electric transportation. And if you're in a state like New Jersey, we throw an extra $5,000 on top of that. Here in New Jersey, the car's going to cost like, $25,000. I mean, and it's relatively, it's not fully loaded, but the base ID.4 actually is pretty well appointed. So, you're talking about really bringing electrification to the masses and making it affordable, which we've talked about here many times, that, we have to be able to get affordable EVs out there for the masses. And this is going to be one of the first ones here in the US that's really a competent EV that can do pretty much anything a family needs and is relatively affordable.
I suggest the all-wheel drive version. But they also mentioned that it has, so it's just a little higher. It also has thicker sway bars, I believe, like slightly suspension bits. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Oh, is anyone interested? The ID.3 that I'm driving at the moment, last night popped up on the screen, new software updates. Do you want to, go ahead now, press update, or no, press cancel? And I canceled it because I want to get my camera and film the process for anyone that wants to see it happening. So maybe that's the version that Kyle's been running that's finally pushed out to customer cars. I don't know.
Let's hope so, because I got to tell you, the infotainment on this thing is snappy. It works really well. I had my friend Chris Rifa, who has a YouTube channel here in Norway, in the car, and he was like, the infotainment's terrible in the Volkswagen stuff. Like, I'd never buy one. And I'm like, okay, well, this to me seems really good. Why don't you try it? By the way, EQC everywhere here. Insane. So I let him get, he got in the car and he did his little thing that was breaking them earlier, and it was flawless and it worked well. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm saying. I'm like, this thing rips. It's awesome. So hopefully, Martin, you have that same experience. If not, please, I'd love to hear about it. But my impression of ID.3 is just through the roof. I love that car. I love ID.4, of course, but if it were up to me, I'd go ID.3. You'd lose almost very little space, and it's just a nicer package, I think. So yeah, but Martin, your car isn't spec'd as nicely, it sounds like.
No, it's not. But you know what? It's a grower. It's definitely a grower. When it first arrived, and I just stepped out of the Kona Ultimate, and I missed the little life's luxuries, because I've got the Life Pro spec, so cloth seats and manual seats and all that kind of stuff. But that was my first impression, the first week or so driving it, thinking, oh, I miss being coddled. You know what? The bones of the ID 3, 4, etc., the platform, they're really, really good. They have tuned it well. I can't wait to install this software update for the infotainment. The chassis is good. The more time I spend in this, the more I'm completely converted. And I don't miss not having a sunroof or a panoramic roof or whatever anymore, because it's an enjoyable electric vehicle. Now, yes, I want to see the charge speed in kilowatts on the screen. Feel free to show me the volts and the amps while you're at it. I want to know all that, and it doesn't. But still, I have come on a funny journey with the ID.3. A month later, I love it. I really love it. The bones of that car are great. And if you want the nice things, the roof and the electrics and the nice seats, you go and spec that. But I've not got the lowest spec, but I'm really impressed.
Right. Hey, so yeah, talking with Volkswagen this week, they were very aware of complaints about the speed of their displays or whatever the systems, and they're definitely, you could tell they're definitely had it top of mind and are working on it. So, and it sounds like they've actually done it. Oh, I also had dinner with your friend Dustin Kraus, Kyle. That was great.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Hopefully you enjoyed your time. Dustin's really a solid dude, and he does a great job promoting electrification within Volkswagen Group. The thing that a lot of people don't realize, and I don't think I'm sharing anything hidden here, it is so annoying to do anything in these big car companies. If you want to change a turn signal chime, if you want to change, make the company go electric, I mean, it's board meeting after this approval. Oh, wait, that guy's out of the office until this week. Got to wait until then. It just goes back. And Dustin, my impression from the outside looking in, really cuts through all the internal BS and just pushes for what customers want. I mean, he's ex-Tesla of a really long time. He's built some of the best cars. He was at Tesla before Model S was a thing. He knows what customers want. He knows what works. And I think he's a great position at Volkswagen to really push for the best electrification stuff. My external impression.
And while I was at Tesla, he also drove a Volkswagen e-Golf along with Matthew Renna, who is also now more the engineering side of Volkswagen Electric in the States. Yeah, so they were both at Tesla driving e-Golfs, and now they're both with Volkswagen. So that was kind of cool. So, but Tom had a great week this week, and I think we really need to talk about that. This is our time, yeah. So Tesla Model S, new Tesla Model S long range with the Yoke. Is it a joke?
Yeah, so I'm out here in sunny Southern California for a wedding, a family friend's getting married. So I had like 6 hours free of this whole week, and that's it. And I rented 2021 Model S long range, not Plaid, on Turo I was hoping to do a range test and charging test, but the range test would have taken like 8 or 9 hours because it goes so far. And here in California, you can't get flat roads like I have in New Jersey. You have to drive like over a mountain to get to the flat road, then supercharge, then start the journey. So I would have been driving all night. So instead,
it's 120 miles.
Cows.
Oh, sorry, Tom. It's 120 miles over the highway to the starting point, and then you have to go 300 and something miles, and then you have to come back.
And you have to charge after you go the 120 miles to get to 100%, then start your 350 or 400 mile trip. So, while that was my initial intention, once I started crunching the numbers and realizing I had 7 or 8 hours to do this, I realized it ain't happening. So I took that time and just did a 0 to 100% supercharging test with the new Model S. I got to drive it a little bit with the Yoke. I got initial driving impressions. This was literally like yesterday, so I haven't posted anything yet. I haven't edited my video or whatever, but I will say it charged great. Super impressed. It charged faster than my Model 3 will charge. It went from dead zero to 50% in 14 minutes. and then to 80%. I think it was 29 minutes, 29 or 30 minutes. So, you definitely wouldn't want to hang out longer than that. And then I think it was another half an hour to get 20 to 80 to 100, something like that. I think I finished up at like 58 or 59 minutes, right under an hour. But the battery's much larger than on my Model 3, and it charged faster. It held that 250 kilowatt peak charging rate up past 30%. I think about 35%. I haven't edited all this data yet. But I haven't really reviewed it, but it was just blindingly fast. I was super impressed with that. And as far as driving impressions, so this admittedly is the first time I got behind the wheel of the new Model S with the Yoke. Initial impressions, I don't like it, but I understand that things take time to get used to, and maybe after driving it for a little while, I would feel differently. I just don't feel that it was a problem that needed to be solved there. That, change just for change's sake isn't, necessarily a good thing. There's me driving the car, and the blinker was a little wonky. Now, I know my thumb would get that muscle memory, and I would learn exactly where to press the blinkers. You could see on the screen there, right by my left thumb. That's where the blinkers, you activate the blinkers. And the horn is right by my right thumb, to the left of my right thumb. So you have this really small area where you have to be perfect to nail that horn. And when you're in an emergency situation, not even emergency, you need to blow the horn really quickly. It really, I just tried to replicate that. Like, I was just blowing the horn as I was driving. And again, I know my thumb would learn where it is, but I don't know. I was not comfortable with it at all. I did a bunch of K turns. I did all kind of turns and everything, and my hands are going over each other and hitting each other. Just, I don't get it. I would not want it. I can say if I were to order a Model S, which the car was awesome. I mean, even without being a plaid, like I think Darren said earlier, face smashing he used, talking about acceleration. It was just nuts. You put it in insane mode and stomp on it, and you just, it literally throws you. It almost tries to push you through the seat, how fast the damn thing is. I can't imagine. I don't know how much quicker plaid is than this, but it's just nuts, this thing. Way faster than most drivers should ever need, or even I would never let like a young, inexperienced driver behind the wheel of this thing. It would be like dangerous, because that's how ridiculously fast it is. But as far as the Yoke, guys, I'm really just not a fan of it. Hopefully, I'll be able to get one long-term back in New Jersey. Once I have a couple friends that have had them on order for like a year, and they're like ready to cancel the reservation, but they're holding on. If they do get them, they're going to loan me the car for a week or two. Maybe after driving it for a while, I'll feel a little differently. But I just think they solved the problem that didn't exist. The view of the driver's display, okay, it's a little bit less obstructed. That's maybe the advantage that I would give it, that they're allowed to have the driver's display lower, so you have a better outward view and you don't have the top of the steering wheel going across it. But that's never been an issue on any of the previous cars that I've owned, that the steering wheel has obstructed my view of my display screen. And I don't, I just don't get it. It looks cool, but I think in the real world, I wouldn't want it.
Tom, I've seen a couple of YouTube, maybe 2 or 3, maybe Doug DeMuro, Marcus Brownlee. I think they've both said, and maybe more, if only it was on either side of the wheel, so left and right, and left and right. That's how other cars. I think the Ferrari puts it on the wheel, and I think that might be Kyle. Is it the Ferraris that do it?
Yeah, Ferraris have it left and right side, but even then you get all crossed up when you're turning at a right turn, and you have the wheels turned a little bit, and then the indicators are all backwards. It's not good to put stuff on the steering wheel for driving. I mean, Elon's going to say, oh, well, it'll be full self-driving today, and this is what you're able to drive. And so, I haven't experienced it. I don't know. I'm holding all judgment. I'm not against it. And it doesn't really matter what I think. They're going to keep doing it.
Right. Yeah, I'm not against it. If you want to offer it as an option, that's fine. If people like it, I'm all for giving the customer the opportunity to choose what they want with regenerative braking, with drive modes, all that stuff. Throw it in the car, let the owners decide whether they want, but definitely have it an option. The problem is you don't know if you're going to like it yet. You buy the car and now you've got it, and maybe you don't like it. So that's a little bit different than a configurable option where you can switch it on and off. I'm not saying I wish Tesla never offered this. Some people might like it, go right ahead. But I'm saying I think pretty certainly if I were to order a Model S, I'd probably get the steering wheel. And another thing, when I'm making hand over hand turns, sharp turns, I turned on the windshield wipers, like my thumb just came across the wheel a little bit, and the windshield wipers were going, and it just seemed like a cluster F, you know. But I don't know if I would feel differently if I drove it for a couple of weeks. That's all. I want to qualify with that. Look, I drove it for 2 or 3 hours. I couldn't get used to it in that time frame. I know that's not long to drive it, but it just didn't seem like it would be something that I would want to get used to. I've never smoked in my life, and I remember my friends when I was a teenager, they all smoked cigarettes, and they all told me, "Oh, you'll get used to it. Just keep smoking them." And you know, sure, you get used to anything. It doesn't mean that it's good or better, you know. So
yeah, I don't think you could offer it as an option because so much of it is. You would need to. There's different like you say, it's hardware. You need to reconfigure the steering column, or at least the other controls. So I don't think that's not the Tesla way. Is to have one set of cars with stalks, for autopilot, and then one set of cars where it's all on the wheel. It's never going to be an option, which I think is a real shame. And I'd love to know if anyone's cancelled their order because of it or backed out. I think everyone who's getting their cars now are probably the mega fans who, that car could have been anything and they'll love it. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I'd like to. Well, I guess we'll get some sales numbers every quarter, so we can judge it.
And I want to add one more thing. We're not going to talk about this today, so I rented the car on Turo, and when I returned the car, I'm talking to the owner, and it was kind of odd that I only rented it for a few hours and paid the full day. I mean, it was like $500 for half a day rental. And I started talking to him, and talked about Inside EVs, and he was like, "Oh yeah." Then he recognized me, I think, and knew what was going on. And he said, "Hey, I've got a Model Y with FSD Beta 10.
Wow.
You want to go for a ride?" So I went for a 20-minute ride, recorded the whole session. I'm going to have that the video up on Inside EVs probably this weekend. So I got to ride in the beta. He just got the download for version 10. And I will say this. I think my experience in the car, my recording is different than what most people are seeing on a lot of these YouTube videos. So I'm going to leave you with that teaser, and we'll probably end up talking about this next week on the show.
Tom, are you saying that Tesla fan YouTubers are potentially altering their videos to make the cars look more capable because they're worried about saying anything negative about the company because they'll be reprimanded and having their toy taken away? Is this what you're alluding to?
I would never make that kind of accusation.
Good.
I leave the liable comments to you on this show. All I'm saying is, I think my video will show a little bit of a different experience than what I've seen on other YouTube videos of Tesla FSD. Maybe I just caught it on a bad day.
Right. There does seem to be like a range of quality of videos coming out. Some of them are very slick, but there's like no engagements or hardly anything. And then like I was watching Kim Paquette's video last night, and hers are like all the issues and problems, and it's it's not. So
I personally haven't watched them, so I don't know. But I was just trying to get our audience worked up over our comments there. Sorry.
Some of them are very good about their James Locke, I think, makes some great videos. Kim Paquette. So Elon mentioned last night on Twitter that they're sending another update. They just updated the 10.0 or whatever. Now there's 10.01, I think, is coming, and then maybe in a week or maybe 2, I forget. He mentions that they'll have 10.1, and that will come with the opt-in to the beta program button or whatever. So I don't know if it's ready for prime time, but man,
I think I want to see it when it's about up to 50, Dom.
All right, well, that's a good video to look forward to. So what's our time looking like? Okay. We should talk about some news of the week real quick. It's been a great show. I mean, it was great having Darren on. So, first production Rivian R1T rolls off the assembly line, and they've also received regulatory approval to deliver in all 50 states. So, Rivian R1T is a go, and that's pretty damn exciting. There's a video I saw it on Rivian's LinkedIn of the CEO RJ Scaringe, giving a little speech to the assembled staff, ahead of driving the first one out of the factory, and it's a great little. If you go to check that out. That's the picture of him doing it there. It takes a lot to get, start a new auto company and actually get to this point, which is like the beginning point. But it was a long, long road. But I don't know. Tom, you excited to drive this thing? Can you talk about that yet?
Well, yeah, I mean, I haven't driven it yet.
Right.
We have a R1T media drive, the first extensive media drive. I know there's been another news outlet that had it for a few weeks, but this is the first invite to the wide media. Is coming up this week or next week. I think, God, my schedule's been nuts. I have 5 media first drives in 5 weeks, and they're all really cool vehicles. But that's Wednesday of next week, and I think it's embargoed until the following Monday, something like that. So still have about a week and a half, 2 weeks before I'll be talking about this. But yeah, I'll be getting behind the wheel of one of these. And supposedly the drive that they have plotted out is a pretty intense off-road course, because in the invite, they warned us. They said, if you're not comfortable driving in extreme off-road conditions, we'll provide a driver for you, and you'll just be a passenger. So
what?
Of course I said, no, I'll drive the vehicle. I would imagine most of the people invited are going to, but it should be a fun drive, and I should have that for you guys in about 2 weeks.
That's pretty exciting. I can't wait to hear about that. I can't wait. I really want to get behind the wheel of one myself. I'm really hyped about the the suspension system. It's got air suspension, but it's all tied in with the hydraulics, and it's supposed to be like really great off-road, like ride-wise. And I don't know if I could possibly get one down here, but I have some off-roads that I'd like to take it on. So what else real quick? So Lucid Air EPA range, official EPA range is 200 or 520 miles. So Lucid Air is the range king. Long live the king. I don't know. Tom, do you have anything you can tell us about that?
So yeah, that's the Dream Edition, has an EPA range rating, and that's with the 19-inch wheels of 520 miles. If you want the 21-inch wheels, then you're going to drop down to 481 miles. And that's the range edition of the Dream Edition. If you remember, the launch version of the Lucid Air is called the Dream Edition, and they're making it in 2 versions, one with range and one in performance. The range version that has the longer EPA range rating has 933 horsepower. The performance edition has 1,111 horsepower, and that is rated at 471 and 451 miles, depending on if you have the 19-inch wheels or the 21-inch wheels. So yeah, I mean, for the first time ever, we have electric vehicles that are out there that have EPA certified range of greater than what competing Tesla vehicles have. Now, yeah, the vehicles aren't out there yet. They're going to be launching pretty soon, and I should find out about that quickly, because right after the R1T launch, I'm going out to Casa Grande to drive the Air and visit the factory and do a factory tour. So I should get more information on exactly when they're launching and fill in the details. Hopefully, a lot of the other details that we don't have on these vehicles yet. So yeah, pretty impressive. And it not only has long range, but it's supposed to be a charging beast, which Kyle and I will most certainly be doing extensive tests and recordings on. It's great to go far, but if you're on a road trip, no matter how good the range is, if you're on a long road trip, if it doesn't recharge quickly, you're going to have a miserable road trip experience. So we're going to have to really test out the charging capability. It's supposed to be fantastic, and we need to validate that.
And so in the comments, Michael says we don't know the size of the Dream battery. It might just be bigger. Yeah, like Michael, my current thing that I'm banging on about to anyone that'll listen, it's about efficiency. Anybody can just shove more lithium-ion cells into, you know, a lawnmower and make it mow lawns for longer rather. But it's about efficiency, and that's where the real skill, I think, this current season of EVs that we're in, probably going to last the next few years as well. Anybody can add more batteries. I think the really great engineers at EV companies are now working on how do we do more with less. Of course, the cars then become lighter. We use less resources out of the earth to make those batteries, and you can put smaller batteries in. And I, as much as I know you want to charge the Lucid, I just can't wait for you guys to start doing your range tests and looking at the efficiency as well. I'm really excited about when you get to do it at different speeds as well.
Yeah, this has the efficiency is about 4.5 miles per kilowatt hour, and that's the EPA range rating, not what you're doing on your drives. And that will make it, you know, that's incredibly efficient for such a big car. I mean, you can get crazy efficiency on tiny little light cars, but you know, this is a big full-size car with a huge battery pack, and to get that kind of efficiency out of it is fantastic.
I think we put a couple posts up last night, Lucid Air EPA range and efficiency results compared, and also Lucid Air versus Tesla Model S range, price, and efficiency compared. You know, personally, I'm looking at those numbers. I'm seeing 451 miles is the lowest range vehicle they have. You know, that's rolling on the 21s, and that is, you don't need any more than that. You know, they give you more, you can pay for more, but yeah, that's really, I can't say it. Great. Man,
It's
I don't know.
26 kilowatt hour per 100 miles on this type of a vehicle is just nuts.
Right. So I'm not sure there's not really anything else we need to talk about, except that I did want to say that tomorrow, September the 18th at 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific, Cadillac will open reservations for the 2020, they're calling it the 2023 Cadillac Lyriq debut edition. There's going to be like a 2-hour live stream from 2 to 4 Eastern on YouTube, and they have a Cadillac Live website where you can take like virtual tours, like one-on-one, like personally guided virtual tours. It's live.cadillac.com, and that's also going to have like some 24-hour thing starting today and until tomorrow at 2 to 4. So you know, if you're interested in Cadillac Lyriq, definitely check that out, and drop by the Inside EVs forum and let us know that you know, if you're interested in we'd like to follow your experience with this car, because it's the first of GM's Ultium vehicles, and yeah, GM, they really need this to work, because their existing Bolt EV thing is really not. It's really gone from the frying pan into the fire. No puns intended. Actually, should we touch on that really, really quick? We've only got a couple of minutes, really. We should. So let me say. So there's GM, I guess, advised some owners, and it's all over the media now, that if you have a Bolt EV, you have to park it like 50 feet from other vehicles, which.
That's a face palm from stand by it while it's charging.
Right? I don't know, man. It breaks my heart, because you know, they've really put a lot of effort into making this car, especially the updated refresh version of it, and it looks great, and it's
yeah, but let's talk about that. Did they really put a lot of effort into this refreshed version? They made the styling a little different, but they kept the battery the same. They kept the same abysmal charging rate. I thought that this was just a shoehorn. This was just a compliance car. They never put enough effort into it. I'm sure there's a team somewhere at GM that was like, great, we're going to put a 62 kilowatt hour pack in this thing. It's going to go long range. It's going to be awesome. But I think GM was never fully behind this car. They did it more so because they had to. Every time I've spoken with GM executives and employees, they're always talking about, hey, C8 Corvette's awesome, Silverado this, Suburban that. And yeah, we do the Bolt too. That's neat. I never thought they had a full company effort behind this car.
Right. It wasn't a high priority vehicle, but they did put a lot of effort in like totally redoing the interior. Like they really didn't have, maybe it would have been better just to kind of let it, linger on as it was until the Ultium. I mean, they are putting a lot of effort in the Ultium, it seems like, but I mean, that remains to be seen. But this whole battery thing with the LG cells, they really need to do something like, I don't buy them all back. I don't know.
That's going to be so expensive. I mean, there's got to be another solution. Look, at the end of the day, GM's going to have to bite the bullet here. They're not going to want to. They're going to drag it on as long as possible. My prediction, and I'll put $5 on this to one person, not to everyone. I think GM is going to totally screw everyone over on this deal. This is my feeling, and I don't think they're going to buy any of the cars back. Even if they were to buy the cars back, what are they going to do then? Give them, let's say, a good percentage of value on their car, and then it's like, oh, we actually have nothing else to sell you, so we'll give you a great deal on a new Cruise. Or like, what are they going to have to sell these people? I don't know. I think they're going to elongate this for as long as possible until they have a replacement model or a replacement situation for these battery packs. But right now, it's seemingly like the fires are increasing, or maybe the coverage is increasing. I hear about them all the time.
Right.
And public perception is getting bad too, because pulling up into a restaurant the other day, I was driving the Honda E in Munich. The guy was like, don't electric cars catch on fire? I heard about all those bolts. I'm like, oh, this is just hurting the industry as a whole.
Right.
Yeah,
so they have to nip that in the bud. I mean, their whole program rolling out all this investment, they really have to, make this go away, fix it.
Absolutely.
How do they do it? How do you make it go? I mean,
they got to spend a lot of money, or LG's got to spend a lot of money. They got to convince LG to spend a lot of money.
Well, and that's the thing. I was going to ask, one of the questions I was going to ask Darren earlier, but what's he going to say? And I mean, it would have been a wasted question, because I was going to ask him about Ford and battery supply and how you work with partners closely. And I was going to mention GM and LG. Like, they can't afford to fall out spectacularly. And Darren would have just had to say, well, hey, look, we have plans for batteries, and there's nothing he really could have said, so I didn't ask it. But if you're GM, like, what do? Do you try and take LG to the cleaners and go, nuclear option with them and ruin your partnership? No, you're building battery factories with them. It's too big a problem to fall out over one model, but it's a massive, massive problem for that relationship. And someone's got to pay the bill. Someone's got to do the right thing by hardworking customers that spent their own money on these cars.
I mean, LG's got to understand that, it's their reputation, their future on the line here as well, because, people aren't talking about SKI batteries having problems, or, Tesla batteries. Well, new Tesla batteries having problems. Yeah. But
one thing I will say, guys, being a long-time electric vehicle advocate and being involved in this industry for more than 10 years now, this had been my fear for ages. Especially early on, that one major recall like this could set the whole industry back, or even kill electrification. But I'm feeling good about this where we are right now. Is it going to hurt the industry? I think it will. Is it going to hurt people's perception? Of course it will. But we are at a point now where there's no turning back, where there's enough electric vehicles on the market from other automakers that aren't experiencing problems that we can point to them and say, look, this is an isolated problem from this specific battery maker on this specific car. It's not an industry-wide problem. I was really concerned years ago when, if you remember, the Model S's were catching on fire when they were hitting things on the highway, driving along 70 miles an hour, getting impaled by spikes and metal objects, which are on the roads. We hit stuff all the time as we're driving down the highways, and they were impaling the batteries, and the cars were going on fire. I was really worried at that point that this was it could have killed electrification if Tesla couldn't solve that problem. But they did quickly. They pulled the cars in, they put in that armor plating underneath the vehicles, and it stopped this problem dead in its tracks. Where we are now, there's too much investment. There's too many other vehicles out there. Kyle's showing us some awesome scenery that I don't think that this is going to be that, that kicking the leg out from underneath electrification. We're on that path now. There's no turning back. If all of a sudden, Tesla started having the same problem, and then Mach-E's started having the same problem, all right, that would be bad. But I think we can take this one on the chin, electrification, as a one-off, as a look. These things happen, and not really set back the industry. Will it set back GM? That remains to be seen.
It didn't help this week that Elon tweeted that something about pouch cells having some problem with cooling because of the design of the whole. It's not pouch cells that's the problem. Everyone makes cars with pouch cells. They engineer them to be cooled properly. It's this defect in this particular model line of LG cells.
But he's not wrong in that the fact that cylindrical cells are easier to keep cool for high stress environments, for charging, as well as hot laps and things like this. Like I overheated the Taycan battery like 3 times this week.
Right, but they have their own engineering challenges. We've seen lots of little mini Tesla bombs going off, like the cells exploding. So there can be issues there as well. But but I don't know. I don't think it was a good idea to just like paint all pouch cells with like a broad brush, especially when we have this manufacturing defect affecting this one particular model.
Maybe I don't know. I don't know the context.
Oh, you're frozen.
Nope, we may have lost.
I do like cylinder. Say it.
Sorry. It's when my phone gets a phone call, it cuts my signal. So whoever wants me to shut up now, it's someone at Volkswagen, I'm sure. No, basically my impression is when someone wants to go and build a car with pouch cells and they claim this is like their best effort, right now it just doesn't seem like that seems to be the best case. Cylindrical cells are where it's at.
I've always liked cylindrical cells. Originally, they had better, energy per kilogram numbers, and they're also cheaper. So it made sense that that's how Tesla got to be Tesla. Figuring out how to engineer all those things into a pack. Where everyone else, Chevy, they could just go do it because they didn't have that kind of energy density, but they're catching up, the other cells. But we should probably end it there. I don't know. Anyone have anything else to say real quick?
I was just going to ask, you guys have been so busy. Kyle, you've obviously been all over Europe the last few weeks. And Tom, you're doing like 5 first drives in 5 weeks. What videos can we watch? If you can even remember what you're publishing, for anyone watching this right now, wants to watch some YouTube over the weekend or a few days, what's coming up on your channels?
You want to go, Kyle?
Yeah, sure. So I think I have same thing. Like I think 5 or 6 or even maybe somewhere around there. First drives as well. Tom and I are both going like crazy coming up. I think my channels. I've filmed like enough videos to bring me out to like January just for out of spec reviews. Inside EVs, we just put up an EV6 first drive and review. We haven't even spoken about that car yet. I don't think, have we? Maybe.
No.
Last podcast I was.
You were in it. You were in it.
But, yeah, that I could talk for an hour about that car. Really interesting. So many cars. I don't even know where to start. But basically, from my channel, we will have, the goal is editing is our problem right now. I have so much footage logged here. It's prioritizing the videos that need to go soon versus the stuff that we can throw out later. It's going to be awkward for our audience because we'll have a video like as soon as I land back in the US, I won't even have time to go home. I'm just going straight out to Western Colorado to do off-roading stuff, not Rivian, but a different automaker. And then from there, I got to go to like San Francisco. So you'll have US videos, then European videos, then US, and it's all going to be out of sync. And I don't know how anyone's going to process this, but just take each video as its own snippet.
Yes.
Tom, what's coming?
So this weekend, I'm going to have the FSD Beta 10 up in a couple of days. That I know is coming because I made that a priority to edit it. Like I stayed up all night last night. And like Kyle, my biggest problem is editing. I have Cadillac Lyriq video shot. I just haven't had a chance to edit it. I have my walk around on the IAA floor, all those cool EVs that are like not really well known that we talked about in the last podcast. That'll probably be the next one, probably a few days later. And then we've got R1T, then Lucid Air, then Hummer EV, then Mustang Mach-E GT coming up in that order.
Wow.
Oh, and I drove the BMW iX and i4 M50, but those video reviews are embargoed until the first week in October.
Excellent.
Right on. All right. So that brings us to the end of our show. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them on the Inside EVs forum podcast thread or on our YouTube or Twitch comment sections. If you like the show, please give us a thumbs up. And if you're watching us on YouTube, a rating. or rating if you're listening on another platform. Don't forget, you can find and follow our panelists on Twitter. Follow Tom Malogny at Tomalog, that's with 2 M's. Martin Lee is at AV News Daily. Kyle Connor is at It's Kyle Connor. And I'm at Domenick_Y. Please click subscribe and tap that bell icon for notifications, because you never know what's going to pop up through the week. And then we'll see you all again next week. Ciao.